It sounded like there was some really good discussion going on at the tables from both perspectives. So yeah. Anything else in summary here for the EI? I love this one. I think it's so funny.
So we're going to go through each of the continuums in the same pattern, all right? Let's talk about the SNs. Now this has all changed. With the population that's here right now, there are 13 S's and 7 N's. So it's still kind of the same ratio, okay? Same ratio. So the barriers, okay, and the table I was talking to, I think one of the big takeaways, if you remember nothing else about this today, except we all have roadblocks. We all have barriers to really receiving what's being told to us. And if you're able to stop yourself from going to that unconscious bias that you have with that roadblock, or looking through the lens that is a little skewed, that's a big step in communication. That's a huge step, all right? So sensors think in absolutes in extreme cases in the areas of conflict. How about sensors appear abrupt and self-righteous? Well, you could probably argue about that, but that could be in an extreme case, all right? Versus the ends, don't set limits on me. You did that exercise of giving and receiving feedback, all right? And you saw that, you showed that. Fine details versus big picture, that's the S and the N. It goes along with everything else that we've talked about in the area of resolving conflict, it's that way. Big picture versus, let's take a look at a different angle. Look at the diagram at the bottom. How many different ways is there to get from A to B, all right? If we take a look at, we want to go from here to here. Oh my gosh, we can go this detour, and then we can, detours all over the place. You'll still get there, but there's detours all over the place. Versus S's. Let's go, straight line. A, B, C equals D. Let's do it, okay? Single-minded. How many of you S's think that you're single-minded? I bet you I don't see any hands, right? Okay, we have one ST right here, and I think that's why his hand's up, absolutely. He owns it, right? And then become bored or impatient with details. Like, just get, let's look at the big picture. Let's not worry about those details. Like that exercise that you did. Let's split you out, okay? Now remember, there are 13 S's and 7 N's. So how about if all the N's come up here as one flip chart, and then the S's divide between yourselves in the back. All right, so you're making a dresser, putting together a dresser from IKEA. All right, where do you start? Do you follow directions or not? Do you wing it?
Yeah, where do you start?
Map out your process. Where do you start? Did you ever put together a dresser from IKEA?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And what would you do? How would you do it?
Redirections, instructions.
Just say that exact thing. That's the exact point. Because you know what ends do? They try to figure out how to do it themselves, and then if they come against a stumbling block, then they look for directions. I think we'll find that, but I could be wrong. Are you an S or an N?
I'm an S, but I was in the bathroom, so I'm just not reading.
No, yeah. Okay. All right, who's the N spokesperson? Anybody volunteer? Okay, Dave, go for it.
So we bounced through that a little bit. We were all pretty clear. We would at least look at the instructions. And
Look at, what do you mean by look at?
Like, see what I mean, is it like a little one? Is it a card with 4 diagrams, or is it like a book? Is it easy or hard?
Okay.
So then we would open them up, and after that.
So tell me though, when you look at it, if it's easy or hard, what does that mean?
Well, if it's hard, we were more likely to want to follow the instructions.
That's what I wanted to know.
So but the next step, we open all the packets, sort out the pieces, look at the finished picture and the assembly diagram. So in the event that we thought it was pretty simple, we wouldn't need the instructions. We would just go to the picture and the diagram, see what it's supposed to look like and how it goes together. We may then read through all the instructions. Then we would go looking for the necessary tools. And we'll also pay for assembly.
Just what I want y'all to notice is right here. The ends will go to the diagram. The ends will go to the picture. Now, this says start out, look at instructions, and then discern whether you really need them or not. But a lot of times this will come out that it's like we throw the instructions away, and we just use the diagram. And we may have a screw or two left over after, but for the most part it's standard, so we're good. Okay, so diagram pictures.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Good. Okay, go speak about that one back there.
All right. Okay. So, we're going to have a very organized workspace. Step one, you're going to open the box. You're going to lay out all the contents. Usually they're lettered or numbered, so you're going to organize them all out. Check your inventory list and the instructions. Make sure you have everything. Organize all the parts by step. Prepare all your tools. Go through the directions thoroughly, and then you can start assembling stuff. Oh, and then at the very end, obviously, you're going to be cussing.
Maybe not in that order. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, good. Very, very logical, systematic, right down the line. Okay, follow the steps. That's the way it goes.
S to the T.
Yep, that's exactly right. We talked about the IKEA, building that, and then looking at the diagram here. Let's when you're talking about conflict resolution, all right? Think about if you're working with somebody of the opposite end of the spectrum, the continuum. If you're an S, you're dealing with an N, and vice versa. If you're an S, which is the majority in here, how would you approach an N in conflict resolution? Like you're having a discussion about something, well, it's really like a power struggle. And if you're an S, what would you need to do in order to be heard better by an N?
Be more open.
Say it.
Be more open.
Be more open, and can you say more than that?
It's like, because we're straight to the point, and we just want to like hear what we want to hear, but see their side more.
Okay, and you maybe look at the end product, like start by saying this is what we both want, looking forward to it, and yes, be more open to their process. Yep, good, yep, and what did you say, Sandy?
Being more receptive to goals.
Being more receptive rather than my way is the right way and the best way.
Like impractical, like because S's love practical.
Yes,
so
yes.
they might immediately go, that's dumb.
Yeah, right. But that's a barrier, right? That's like saying right away that person's not thinking right. Right. How about you, N's? If you were in conflict with an S, what would you need to do in order to be heard?
Give us some specific data, think about it for a while.
Yeah, break it down, come up with a list of concrete things. Yep, straightforward. Yeah.
And if you're struggling for application, it's like again in the book, like each.
Yeah, the book has some good stuff in it. It just gives you a synopsis.
Page 9 on the bottom would be this one.
And remember, it's not going to be 100% you. You could be right next to a person with your same type, and you are going to be two very unique individuals. There's a lot more things that go into it besides your Myers-Briggs type.
Yeah. Okay. So N's, when you're approaching S's, you want to be concrete and specific, correct? And S's, when you want to approach N's, sometimes you have to give them the bottom line first. Give them the gist of what you want to talk about, and then provide the detail. Because N's don't like all that detail if they can't connect it to something. So bottom line up front. Bullets first. I mean, the bullet, the main gist, and then followed by detail. Is it my turn?
Okay. TFs with conflict resolution. Yep, you're on.
Oh, is this me?
Yep, that's you.
Okie dokie. So this one, again, is pretty, like Amy was saying, it's easier to wrap our heads around. You know, the head, the heart. This one comes up at work. It comes up a lot in personal relationships, you may notice. So again, this is a perception thing. Remember that lens. For F's, sometimes T's can seem cold or unfeeling. Why? Because the F is looking at that person through the lens of an F and expecting them to be like them, right? And vice versa, same thing. These are, again, the potential blocks for each one. So Sometimes T's are less comfortable with emotions or a heightened situation, so they may feel uncomfortable with it. They may tend to want to debate and challenge rather than listen, because it's more comfortable. Again, think about that signature thing. It's more comfortable to debate stuff than it is to like listen authentically or intimately. T's are really going to go for that objectivity. Again, think about the exercise with the Little League. T's were going for the stats. That's that objective stuff. And the F's are looking more for fair. Who deserves, I kept hearing that word with the F's. Who deserves to go? So for a T, it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, that's not really very objective, right? And you hear kind of the difference. So T's like that competition, like to win, and F's are really going to strive in communications for harmony. They're going to work towards helping people understand each other. So who is more likely of these two to bring something up that's a problem? Naturally, T's would be more comfortable because they're not thinking personally as much. They're just thinking it's a work thing that we got to talk about. F's don't want to hurt people's feelings. They like the harmony, so they might wait too long or may not at all approach somebody with something that's not working. Again, everybody's different. That may not describe all of you, but it's a tendency. So that's the wanting to sweep things under the rug. All right, so this is another exercise that's going to help us to kind of see how the different type preferences view, I want to say the world, but so what do we have, half and half?
Yes, 10 to 10.
So we're going to have our T's here and our F's up here, and you're each going to, now this isn't a bulleted list, this is defining. So you're going to define what is conflict, and you're going to define, how would you define respect? So what words come to mind? How would you define each of these? So two things. Arguing, okay, yeah.
No progress or regressive.
Okay. So arguing, more likely ET, IT? More likely ET, but it could go either way. You know, doesn't mean that eyes won't argue, it's just he's like to express, gets out there. Okay, conflict, T's over here, what you come up with?
You said impasse, tension,
Okay.
division, miscommunication, lack of information, and gossip.
I like the lack of information part. That's really very astute. So are we seeing anything different here up front? Conflict, not agreeing, different opinions, lack of communication, specific situations. Is there a difference in how the T's are defining it and the F's? And then over here, different points of view, unable to resolve. The words are different. The words are, this is a little softer, and that's a little more like tension and yeah. So I'm going to bring up one thing here that the conflict definitions are all negative. And that's not really the point of this exercise. I'm going on a little tangent here. So I want you all to consider the possibility that conflict is actually a good thing. Because without conflict, the conflict is somebody wants to do something differently or somebody doesn't like how things are going. But that's how we grow and change. Because if we didn't have conflict, I mean, think about historically. We would still have slavery. Do you see what I'm saying? Conflict brings about change. It's an opportunity to look at things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Where it's not a good thing is if it goes unresolved and it festers. So conflict in and of itself isn't bad. It's healthy. It's just how we move through it. Y'all look like you're pondering that one. I don't know. All right. Okay. So.
I just want to say, just observe our personalities as we're going through these last 20 minutes, okay? To give you an idea of Myers-Briggs. But go ahead, keep talking.
All right.
Go ahead, or do
So
whatever you
that
want.
but it's the same thing as the feedback. It's a gift. It's a mindset. It depends on how you look at it. It doesn't have to be a negative. All right, so the respect, same thing, I think. Just kind of, is there a difference in the verbiage? Honoring the differences, accepting, listening, active. Those are the kinds of words that are up here. Caring, value their opinion, listen and understand. Look up to the person. What's happening back there? Because I can't quite see it.
Inclusive, open-minded, and consensus.
Say again.
Inclusive, open-minded, and consensus.
Okay, okay, cool. And the final?
No, we said opposite of conflict, understanding, compromise, recognize, and acknowledge.
Okay, so recognize and acknowledge, that's more of the T. The accepting and honoring and caring is more the F. That's the bottom line there. All right, so I literally had this happen, literally. I had a friend who was going to interview at JP Morgan Chase where Amy and I met. This was years ago. And this friend of mine, I said, how did the interview go? Like, how'd it go? And me being an F, I was like, did you like her? Literally, that's what I meant. Did you like her? Did you vibe with her? Would you want to work with her? My friend starts listing her credentials. Literally. Well, she's got a master's in this, but she doesn't have this, and she doesn't have it. All about competence. All about the competence and credibility of the person. All right.
Okay, all right. I know that between me, the picture, and a couple other things we have to do, we're winding down here, so just bear with us for a little bit longer. All right, J and P. Actually now in this population, you're 10 and 10 again. I mean, it's amazing how that split out. Remember, judging is not by Webster's definition. Judging means that you want closure, you want things precise, all right? Stay on the motto. These are the barriers, remember. These are like in conflict. This is what's going to happen. They're going to stay on top, be in charge, versus let's look at some alternatives for the P's. Okay? Now think about this in the area of conflict. Can sound abrasive and unyielding. If you're a J, can you like picture that? Yep, I think some of you maybe can. All right? Share perceptions, not judgments, are the P's. Again, let's take a look at, remember that squiggly line? All right, versus the straight line. All right, that's oh, there it is. It's still there. Thank you. You're so observant. All right, may make decisions too quickly as a J. Let's make this decision and move on. All right, versus the P. Let's take a look one more time. What's the data that we have? Let's make sure we have everything together. That last minute thing that Dave was talking about. That's where you get your most of your energy. You're working through that stuff. And J's are like, cut to the chase, let's get it over with, let's move on. Reject changes in schedules or plans because it's been decided. That's something, that's history. All right? We can't go back to that. Whereas the P's are like, but there's a better way. We can do it a different way. There's a better way to do it. And then J's are so sure they're right, there's no tolerance for shades of gray. All right? For you J's out there, do you agree with that or not? I mean, you know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. And then the P's can be non-committal. Oh, they're just going to come up with another new way again, and this isn't going to work, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So the barriers that we have, all right, these are obstacles that we have to overcome, all right, in order to be most effective, especially in the area of conflict. All right? So as a group now, okay, or at your tables, let's do this at your tables. I'll give you about 3 minutes. J's at the table. Think about brainstorming. And if you're not a J, think about somebody that might be a J. All right? How is a J an asset in resolving conflict? How is a P an asset in resolving conflict? There's 3 sets. All right? In resolving conflict, how does the opposite type stress you in conflict? Okay, do that individually. And then the third one is, how do they add value in resolving conflict? All right. Well, the first and third are about the same. Oh, the opposite type. Okay. How is your type an asset in resolving conflict. How does it stress you? How's your type stressed in conflict? And the third one then is, how does the opposite type add value? Does that make sense? The point here, folks, is not to go and answer these questions and make sure you get the right answer. Again, the point is to understand that there's positives about being a J, and there's positives about being a P. All right? Those of you that are Js, how is a J an asset in conflict resolution? Anybody want to offer? Go ahead, Christy. What?
Quick resolution.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that? Just from what you know. It may not be you, and you may not like it, but is that something that they bring to the table? How about a P? What do Ps bring to the table in conflict resolution? Broad variety of options. Let's not just go a singular path. If that's not going to work, what are the other things that are out there? Agree? Okay? All right?
Hash out everything.
Say it again.
Lots of information, hash out everything.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, this can get, we can get ourselves in a hairball by going through each one of these, but the gist is exactly what you all said. The gist of it is, I must have said something funny, I'm sorry. The gist of it is, Ps have something to contribute even in conflict resolution, as do Js. But you don't want those barriers, those roadblocks to get in your way of looking at the positive of the outcome. All right? So how about this? If you're a J, getting all that stuff out of your inbox, woo! If you're a P, is like, ooh, I got lots of things to do and lots of time to do it. Right? Can you relate? No.
To mine, yeah.
Okay, now your learned behavior might be, as a P, you've got to get them in and out because of the job you do, because of the company that you're with, or whatever. So it doesn't always pan out that way, okay? But know that that's the difference between J's and P's. All right? Go through in your handbook, page 36, in your workbook, page 36, in the white binder. And Lauren's going to make you accountable by what's your takeaways. She said that in the very beginning, that she was going to make you accountable for what your takeaways. Yep. All right?
Yeah, so bottom line, folks, we're not going to have time to, we can look at the workbook, but not necessarily the book, just in the interest of time. So just capture there on 36, what's your biggest takeaway and what's your action step? So insights are really valuable when we can put them into action, when we can do something differently. So that's why I want you to think about it two different ways. What's your biggest takeaway? And then what is your one action step that you're going to focus on? And then again, in the interest of time, I'm going to have y'all start while some people are still writing, just to keep us moving. Takeaway and action step, two things. Yeah, yay, cool, good. Action step? Yeah, good. Okay, so approaching it, but with a different mindset. Perfect, love it. Thank you.
Conflict is not always a bad thing. It helps us to move forward and grow. And for me personally, try to slow down, make decisions after all the information is taken in and considered, rather than jump quickly, because I like to get things resolved fast.
I hear you. Yeah, it's less rework.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Slow down to speed up. Excellent. God, these are great. I love these.
Trying to step back and recognize the barriers when they do happen. Try to be conscious about it.
Excellent.
Focus
That's
on that.
Suspend the judgment, or
Like
suspend
step back
that.
and kind of try to be like, wait a minute, I think we got a little barrier here.
Yep. Somebody's got to kind of let go of that rope when you're in that power struggle.
It's going to reiterate what others has said: without conflict, nothing will change. And that, you know, for myself, it would be to try to stop and look at things from both perspectives, not just my own, to have the most level-headed way to go into it.
Yeah, excellent.
Being able to identify different types of personalities so I can better communicate, and more physical engagement and more person-to-person discussions.
Okay, all right.
you kind of forget that other people have different ideas and different perspectives.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have a one-track mind and see things only the way, it's not easy, to see things the way other people see them or how they think about things. So, you got to take into consideration that people are different and go about things differently, and that's not necessarily means they're wrong or anything like that. It's just it's hard to see things from somebody else's point of view.
Yes.
And that's.
And that's where those clarifying questions come in. Tell me more about that. Help me understand. Can you give me an example? Can you be more specific?
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the takeaway and the actions. Just try and understand how other people do what's comfortable for them and natural for them, even if it's not what you would naturally think of or do.
Right. So. Perfect. Good. Excellent.
That conflict is not always a bad thing, and to handle it better. I mean, as far as speaking up, listening, and then expressing what I have to say as well after listening.
Yes. 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 Some of us have to work more on listening. Some of us have to work more on stating our needs. Yep. Excellent.
Just that the biggest takeaway would be that the other letters essentially have value. That kind of sounds bad. I've always known that there's been differences, but having bullet pointed lists and actually in practices and things like that, and seeing the strengths and where they were able to resolve certain things or come up with solutions where our groups just didn't even consider them. So that was probably my biggest takeaway. Or the other one is that, especially which helps in my personal, is knowing that some people need to know the why and not just the facts of something, where I would assume that someone should be able to derive the why from the facts I'm giving you.
Okay. And not necessarily,
But yes, not necessarily. They may need to explicitly hear the why of, why this is an issue or why this is a conflict. So making sure that I'm more cognizant of that when I'm in a conflict. And would be that action step, and the other one would be just utilizing the strengths of the conflicting, or not conflicting, just the opposing.
Those idiots on the other side of it, right?
That's what he wants to say.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. That's beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you. Sandy?
My biggest takeaway is probably just a more defined awareness of the differences of style, and that conflict does promote change, and sometimes you can agree to disagree and find a happy medium somewhere.
Yes.
And I think that's difficult for people.
It is.
Action step is to be a little bit more aware of some of the barriers that get brought up, and then to communicate the why as to something's happened. Because again, sometimes I presume that that's an assumed thing.
Sometimes it doesn't make sense to us, and we don't want to accept it until we understand why. What's the purpose? Yeah, good. Last but so not least.
My biggest takeaway is conflict is a good thing. Just don't wait too long to do it.
Yeah, because it festers, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then some people might not understand if you wait too long.
Oh, yeah, like it doesn't make sense anymore. It's too far, and they don't know what you're talking about. It just causes confusion.
Do it up front.
Right, the ancient history. Do you remember when we first started dating, and you we don't want to be going there.
And then my action step is to be open-minded and listen to other people's opinions.
Okay, excellent. I loved these takeaways. They were really awesome. Yeah, so I like the idea of the platinum rule because it helps us remember. We all grew up learning the golden rule, but really it's treating people how they want to be treated, not how we want to be treated. And I think that's it.